Welcome to episode 30 of this Let's Play series. My name is DasTactic. Welcome to the channel. I hope you've been enjoying the series so far. I've been having a blast with it, although I just wish I had more people. 18 people, and some of them actually are not really workers. It's a bit painful, to be honest. It's it's been very, very slow and laborious to get things done. We did have one migration wave where no one came as well in between all this, so we've got to sort of try to get the value of our fortress up for them to for it to become more attractive. The clothing we're sort of on top of, so there's not going to be any reports going back to the mountain homes about the lack of clothes on our dwarves anymore, I don't think. I've sort of noticed that they've been getting more and more. What I might do is I might actually start off with as this is a multiple of 10 number, and I do usually try to sort of keep track of the multiple of 10 numbers, although I haven't remembered it for 10 or for 20. But in this case, at episode 30, let's just do an overview of the fortress, what's happened, what's going on, where we've come to, and it won't take me very long. And I have let the game run forward. We're now in the midwinter of the year 252. Let's just go back up the top. I've just pressed the F1 key. So up the top here, I've now started to sort of place some little cage traps. Now, a tip: when you're trying to place cage traps, remember that most creatures can move through the diagonals, and so don't put a cage trap out here where the mouse cursor is, for the simple reason that if a creature was coming down this way, they would actually bypass through the diagonals. So I've got like a cage trap being built there, and another one actually underneath this pile of stuff. So we've got like mangled skeletons and so on and so forth in through this side. And similarly, this is at the corner of an entrance in through this side. So if something was coming in, there's a good chance they would step on that one. I don't have very many cages, so I just put, I've got most of my cage traps set up inside. But anyway, that's a little tip. Just don't, do it where they're going to come around a corner and then they're going to step through the diagonal. Don't assume they're going to walk out and then around. That's very, very rare. So that's actually one little tip when you are putting down cage traps. Okay, so we've got a 2-layer fortress here, or tower. This is the top layer with all the snow on the roof. We've blocked the hatch. This is technically a point of weakness, but the only creatures that will be able to break into this particular layer will have to be flyers. So they have to be able to fly, and they also will have to be door openers or door crushers. So I forget what they're called, door breakers, whatever you might want to call them. furniture smashers, I don't know what they're called. Anyway, whatever the designation is in certain creatures. So if you had a flying troll, you'd be in trouble. But thankfully, trolls don't fly. And so trolls are quite common to come with the actual invading armies of the goblins. After the first couple of waves, you get like a couple of waves where they're almost just feeling you out with just a small group of goblins, and then they'll start to get bigger and bigger numbers, and that's where you then have to start getting a little bit tricky. And that's what I love about the Dwarf Fortress. I've got all these different, fairly intricate traps now set underground, and we will certainly be going through and making good use of those, I hope, fairly soon. Anyway, that's the upper layer. By the way, just as a bit of a recap, you'll notice that this upper layer is one area out further than the other layer from this one, and the reason for that is I don't want the goblins scaling over onto my roof, because the goblins are very, very good at climbing, like extremely good. And I don't know what the numbers actually are for that, but they really know how to scale up rocks, so they can sort of scramble their way up through sides of buildings. They can pretty much do anything. So if you've got an area that the goblins can climb out of, they're going to climb out of it, and so they can do an awful lot. I've even had instances where I've walled in a volcano, except leaving a little gap, and they'll crawl all the way around the outside, like underneath the lip, and then come back out where so you can make use of it if you're wanting to, but just be aware that they are extremely good at it. And so this is why the lip stops them from doing that. They can't go up. When they hit a lip, they can't then go around the outside edge. Anyway, that's the fortress in through there. There's heaps of dead bodies out here from when we had the undead here. The undead really did a lot of damage out this way. There's heaps of loot out here as well, but I just don't have the people to bring it inside. I'll talk a little bit about the loot as we go inside as well. There was one particular item that we did an episode where we sort of touched on what it actually was, and that was the Leopard of Hustling, which is a bronze, an artifact axe, an artifact bronze battle axe. Oh, by the way, I've got a step ladder out here, so we are collecting food from outside. So our food was quite dire. It's still not great, but we are getting a lot of different things in here. Now, what I will be doing very, very soon, I'm not sure when I'll do it, is I'm going to create like a barley. There's heaps of barley out through this side. I'm going to create a barley farm so we can actually then make ale and drink out of barley, as well as the plump helmets. And it's there's some intricacies to that, and I will go through basically how to do that one. But again, I just don't have the population to do it. What I've been doing actually is just going through my task list and just having a look at what hasn't been done. And this is a lot. There's an awful lot that just hasn't been done yet. And so my guys are really stretched all the time. Like, it's very, very hard to, like, I've got to almost turn everything off and on to get anything done, which is not great. So that has been quite painful, I've got to say. And yeah, when I didn't get the last lot of people coming, it was like, oh, damn it, here we go again. But we have been fairly ragged. We're sort of wearing ragged clothes. The report back to the mountain homes would not be pretty based on what's actually happened here. And I guess all the dead around the place as well. The reports would have been very, very poor. Another thing we do have to do at some point is to stop it so that when the wagons do start to roll, at this point in time, they could probably make their way through. But this is quite a difficult terrain for wagons to sort of reach. And I should actually have like a big paved area all the way around my my fortress, but I'll do that when I do the other bits and pieces. Wow, I've spoken for nearly 7 minutes on the top layer. Okay, let's get down. We have ourselves a very small drawbridge here to then raise and just block off. We had it with the undead, actually. The undead did smash that door, but they couldn't get through a raised drawbridge. And so the raised drawbridge is your best method of defense. Back in through here, you've got another massive drawbridge. This is like a bit of this is the only entrance into my fortress other than this little area on top of the fortress. They're the only entrances on the top layer. And so if I block that one off, nothing can come in. But I actually want to be blocking this one off and opening this one up, because as we go down through the fortress, if you sort of follow the ramps as they head on down, we then actually come to an area where they do split off. Now, I can open it up. The creatures will always take the shortest route, so you can use that to your advantage as well. So you can either block a route off so that they go a different way, or you can open up a route that's very short to allow invaders to go through. And quite often you'll do that. A wagon, when the wagons do start to come, will be 3 wide. And so you can actually have a wagon go way over and sort of meander along with a small area, just a one or two wide area for the enemies to come charging through. And in which case, of course, you can then sort of set up all sorts of weird and wonderful traps for them. But it's anyway, this one just goes down to this layer. It then diverts around, goes down 2 layers through here. The rest of the time it would have just continued on down this other side and then continued on this way. But I've now blocked that off. I'm thinking I'm just going to keep this one on permanently. And so this is actually 2 big retracting bridges. Like, these were really, really big retracting bridges. And we did manage to capture 2 of these demons. So we've got the hand of Uthlogestes, one of them, and this one's badly injured. It's actually not healing. So I think that the hands, if we do come up against them, we can certainly deal with them. Probably be able to deal with them with our just normal military. I noticed there was a body of one of these outside as well. And then the other type, this is the Esmeralda Dead's warrior hammerman. And these sort of demons are very, very strong, very, very fast. And so that's a completely different kettle of fish. You can see there's vomit in through here from this hand. So this particular demon certainly has not performed well. Let's just put it that way. So anyway, that's just a pit that I've sort of got there that I can trigger that one to have it fall away. When I've got people, I'm going to build another door there to block that off there as well. I just haven't done it yet. We then continue on further down into the fortress, and at this point we do get now down to the same layer that's down this way. Now you can see there's a cage, a tower cap cage has been built and left there, because I was trying these when they go dark coloured like this. If we look at the cage trap in through there, that one's actually it's not quite working yet. There's 3 stages to building a cage trap. If we go and click on this one here, you'll notice that this cage trap, this may be helpful. I did actually have a question on Discord about that their cage traps didn't seem to be working, but they require 2 components to actually be in there, and it requires a mechanism and then a cage, and they're 2 separate elements to it. What they first of all do is you designate what you want to have built, and this is actually a good example because again I'm going to have it so that when I open this door, I can open that door. That will invite whatever's in here out along this area, and hopefully they can't avoid the cages. We don't know if they're that yet until we find it, but then they will actually start to sort of step on these different cages. Now, the first stage is just to build them, and the first stage is literally just to put mechanisms in and get the trap ready. And so when we have a look at it, we then see these dark coloured ones. These are cage traps that have been prepared but aren't set. And so when I click on those, you'll see that it's still a cage trap. It's only got the mechanism, but not the cages. And then when it goes into this sort of mid color in through this side, then we have the actual set cage trap, and that's got the cages and the mechanisms in place. By the way, the better the mechanism, the more effective the trap will be as well. So it's going to it's going to be harder for creatures to sort of avoid. And I didn't really worry about the quality of the mechanisms. In fact, there's a jewel encrusted grown maple cage. That's the one left over. Excuse me, from one of the elves through there. So anyway, that's how cage traps work. And most traps, you'll have the same sort of thing. It'll be initially plan it, build the mechanisms and sort of get the bits and pieces, bring the actual trap component in, and then that's the third part to sort of get that one ready. So hope that makes sense. I will, like as I say, I'm spending a lot of time just going through this this summary. Is it fair to call this a number 30? I think it is. I mean, I'm imparting wisdom and information. Anyway, as it comes through, this is the next trap system. So anything that falls into here, they're likely to break bones at level 2, like that's two Z levels. Level 4 is usually enough to kill most things. So level 2 levels is okay. I am tempted to actually dig down one more layer and then actually have a ramp up this way at this end and just have it so it's 3. That will sort of almost guarantee that I'm going to be breaking the bones of anything that does fall down there. Now, I don't know if I want that or not. I don't know if I want to be capturing them, because I certainly can do a lot more with the units once they're actually in this pit. But this whole area through here, the idea is that they fall down and are then trapped inside. Now, for the dead, and I'm assuming that these are undead. They may not be, and I don't know yet if they can be drowned. Most undead don't breathe, and so they basically don't, like, if they can survive underwater. And I'm going to have an underwater trap and a pit as well, which is coming up actually. I just around the corner here. When we open this one up, and it sort of then comes back down. By the way, that trap was left because I did actually close this one in. I want to release this fairly soon. By the way, you'll see even skeletons down through here. There's all sorts of a group of humans went crazy in episode 26. I'm just looking at my notes. So the humans went crazy through here. We ended up killing them, but they killed a couple of people as well. So it was, again, with our poor numbers, it's not good at all. Anyway, we continue on down through the actual bottom layers. Then we come to, this is a bypass, and what this one does is it's just a quick way. If I've got stuff happening in the traps, I just release this drawbridge, and then I can still get access for myself back out to here. But if we continue on down, what actually happens on the next layer is we actually hit this one. Now, I've marked all this one in as blueprint. This is going to be another couple of retracting bridges in through here that then open up into a more intricate sort of trap. And this is going to be a water trap. So I'm sort of doing all the sort of mega projects, I guess, in one sort of sense. Like I'm trying to sort of cover as many of these sorts of things as I possibly can. I've just got this one planned out. I might start to build this one fairly soon. There's a few, again, I'm thinking I'll probably wait until I end up with one more, basically one more group of people coming, like one more migration wave. And I think that'll be then enough for me to get on top of the work orders, but just not quite enough just yet. I'll go through that at the time, but essentially this is going to be a pump system because the next layer down is all aquifer. You can sort of see in through there. If I go and click on this one here, you can see all the water. And so I'm going to be using the aquifer to just keep this full all the time. I'm then going to be, and by the way, I'm doing this here because that then won't disappear when I do this building. Unfortunately, my actual buildings, my building process here will actually be destroyed as the damp stone becomes prevalent. It'll get rid of all the designations around it. So I'm just using from one designation out. I've just got my plan set just so I know what's going on. So the top layer is we dig straight down. Now, same as what we did with the tower up top, I've then got an overhang for the next layer down. So this is going to be another channel down. It's going to be 2 layers down, but full of water. So it's going to be full up to this top, but there will be a retracting bridge, again, like the drop bridge that we actually had. But this one will just fall straight into water. And the reason you may want to do this is so that if you've got things like goblins or something like that, you may want to grab their loot. And so you can, anything that can drown, you can actually just have it drop into that area. They'll sort of sink to the bottom, can't swim or survive. Put the bridge back over the top. They'll just sit down there, and then eventually they'll all just die in the bottom of it. And at that point, you can then just go back in, and as long as you can get the water out, you can actually then go and get the loot. So what we need to do is we need to have a system of getting the water out. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do that through down in here. Now, I haven't actually figured out what to do to get the stuff out yet. I'm going to have to sort of figure out the best way of doing that one. I don't know if I'll leave a little walkway around the corner or something. I'm not sure if I'll do that yet. I may do that actually, so that we can actually, that's maybe over here. Maybe if I leave one bridge up, I can then just leave a little walkway leading down, just so that it actually has a ramp that sort of goes down deeper to the bottom layer when required, because it's not going to help them. Like, a little ramp like that's not going to keep them alive, because that's going to be full of water at two different levels. And so back in through this side, we just have a little area that comes into here. I'm going to be placing a pump here, so we'll go through how pumps work. I did want to sort of show that in detail, and this is a good one to do, with a chamber at the back where, because underneath this one there's aquifer. Aquifer also absorbs water, so we can pump straight into an aquifer chamber and have it absorb water, which means that when we do actually have like all of the water on this next layer down as well, it's going to be 2 layers. We've got another pump layer into here. I'll have 2 different pumps, and I'll start by pumping with the top layer to expose the next layer down, and then I'll start, once this was down to level 1 or 2, I can then start pumping with this one again into the same chamber back over here, just to fill it up, fill the aquifer up with water, and it'll just absorb the water. So it's going to be a self-contained little area. And so all of the water that is on the layer down below here, and I've got a little channel that's going to go through there. I'm going to put a grate over the end here when we sort of dig on down, and then that will be essentially at that point, that will then be a big chamber in here just for drowning creatures. That will be sort of what we then do at that particular point. So that will be just using the aquifer. So that's the drown system. I'll do that in detail. Now, this is an atom smasher. These are all drawbridges, all raised, ready to drop. They're going to drop into this area and destroy anything that's actually sort of walking through. Actually, I should preface that. Destroy anything of medium size and smaller. It won't crush forgotten beasts, won't crush dragons or anything large like that. And so if we do sort of drop those down, I can't use them as a trap for forgotten beasts. I can use the other traps that we've built, but not that one. And so this again is, if there's a group, let's just say we have the undead that do make it past the drop area, and so if we just go back into this drop area through here, if they make it past there, what I will do is I won't bother dropping them into the bottom area, because I'm not going to be able to get rid of them from there. I'm going to have to actually find a way to let them out if that was the case. But if they can get into here, I can then just atom smash the undead and just destroy them. And I've got a big long area, so I can actually I can close it off and then smash them in. And this again is that little access point that takes us up to the next layer up. So that's my trap system back in through there, or the big trap systems. And then we go through the aquifers down through this side, around the corners. I did all this early, very, very early on actually. So there's episodes in the early part of this series. There's another bridge here just as a bit of a fail-safe in case we need to block things off to stop invaders getting past. So that's another fail-safe bridge. So you can't have too many of them. Then we get down below the aquifer. The aquifer is monstrously big. I'll just get rid of that one there. And then we finally get down to our trade caravan with another door that I can also lock. So goblins typically can't break open doors. Like if you block a door, they can't break it open, but trolls and other creatures can. So, and in fact, those hands and the demons that we've got can do that. All right, then we actually hit the main part of the fortress back in through here. We have another bridge in through here. Again, I've just got so many of these. This is the most effective way of locking things down, and this is the only door into the heart of our fortress at this point in time. It's the only access point in. So if anything can break its way through there, then I can't really stop it. Now, this door is wedged open because there's somebody's front teeth sitting in there and jammed in to the mechanisms keeping the door open. I do have a dog there. By the way, this is important. I don't know if I've stressed this enough, but there's all sorts of thieves and sneaking sort of creatures, and the dogs will then warn you. So I've got like a system here. I've now blocked this bridge off because there's been trolls outside, but I have blocked this one off, and I've got a dog there just in case something can break its way through. And the dog here as well. Just got the dog in this particular instance, just waiting for anything that does come. Now I could put the dog there in hindsight. I've got a funny feeling the last dog got crushed by the door. I think that may have actually killed it in the end. But where someone actually used the door while it was trying to get into the door, and in the end it was killed by that one. So I don't want to be losing the dogs. I have to think about what to do with those. Anyway, I've got another door there just in case they break through there or whatever, or they get through there. I've still got one more fail-safe. You've got to be, when you're playing on an aggressive map, you've got to be super, super careful. Not that we've had that many. We've only had this one big siege. Back over through here, we've got our water source, or our old water source, which is coming from, if we just go back down and have a look, this is all coming from the aquifer up through this side. And so the aquifer has then been tapped. So it feeds into that particular area. Now I also had I've also connected this up to another system that then takes us out into the caverns, and I have blocked this off. Then goes back up into this area where there are fish. Now once you open up an area like this where you have water connected, like what we've now got, we should start to see occasionally fish in these different areas. And so we can actually end up getting fishing done from this particular region a little bit. So I haven't noticed anyone catching any fish there, but that is possible now because we've connected it up. Now that's another vulnerability. I like to have a few little vulnerabilities. So that's only a swimmer and a door crusher can get through that particular outside area back in. This was our catch-all. I'm still using it a little bit for stuff. I'm using it ready for trading for when the traders come. In through here I've got finished goods ready for trading as well. This is our hospital zone back in through this side. Now one thing we don't have yet is we don't have we don't have any metal stuff, so I can't actually make chain, like as in actual chains, and actual chains are required for traction benches, and they're very, very important. So when you build a hospital, I've noticed this as well with other people, like when you build a hospital, make absolutely sure that you end up with isolated rooms without doors, because if a were creature gets inside, and they can get inside because they're just normal people that wander in basically, if they change into a were creature inside your fort, or they somehow get in and bite your guys outside and your guys survive, then there's a good chance that they'll have the were creature stuff coursing through their veins, and then they will change into were creatures themselves. So bring them in. You've got one full moon cycle before they will then change, and the only way of being able to stop them if they do change is to box them in. So you need to have, like, I've just got some wood here, and so the wood here is so that I can very quickly block either this layer off if I need to block that one from any invaders that may make it through, if we can possibly do it, Or, like, let's just say, for example, we've got our military fighting in here where some invaders have gotten through this door. Once an invader gets past a door, that door becomes owned by them. And so you can't actually you can't just go back and re-block it when it closes. They control that door from that point forward. And so the only way to get back it is for your dwarves to then walk through it themselves. That means they've got to fight their way out. Now, with a hospital or something like this, I'm probably going to be wanting to block it off, and just so that no one's got access to it. And so that would be what we'd be doing in this instance, would be to block that one off and then find another way to get into the actual hospital. But at the moment, it's sort of not, it's up near the top of the fortress. I normally have them sort of down towards the bottom of the fortress, sort of away from everything, but we just need to be near water sources, and this is where the water is. So anyway, these are here to block things off. This wood stockpile. So if I need to block a room off, like as it gets closer to the next full moon, if people have been injured in a werebeast attack and are taking up the beds, I can then just go and block individual bedrooms and monitor what happens to sort of see what actually happens on the full moon. If no one changes, I then just undo that particular designation and they're allowed out again. But if not, then we can, once they change back, they then become they then become okay again, and we can then go and place them somewhere safe for them, and so you can then start to manage it. But don't just put all your beds in one area. This is really, really, really important. When you've had a werebeast attack, you do not do that because it will just cause so much damage. But again, I do need to hit a traction bench. So what you essentially want is, the way that works is that in a hospital zone, I'm really am spending the whole half hour here. I'm only just hitting the top of the fortress. But when you do have a hospital zone, the dwarves or the patients need to be put into bed so that they can recuperate. But then they may need surgery, and the surgery is not done in the bed; it's done on a table. That's why you have to have a table next to the bed. So you don't want them moving around very much. So they go from bed to the table, back to bed for rest. Or they go from, and you can sort of have it so that you end up getting them in a corner or whatever, but you then need to also then move them to, like if they've got bones that have been broken, they then get put onto a traction bench and then stretched out on a traction bench. So in that case, you then need to have a traction bench also best places next to the bed. It just means that there's very minimal movement of the dwarves to get them into those areas for their treatment. And again, so every single room in here will end up with its own traction bench. Now, as the number of dwarves gets higher, I'll be wanting to double this group in through this side, and then we have these areas in through here with the various splints and cloth, and the cloth is bandages, the splints are for setting the bones, thread is for stitching people up. I don't think we've got anyone that's actually had to do anything with that at this point in time, but quite often if you look at the what dwarves are wearing after a battle, you'll sort of find that they're wearing pigtail threads and stuff like this, and it's because of the stitching in their skin. Anyway, that's there. The best thing for a hospital is a well, and so we've actually built a well here after we could get things sort of developed, and so that then just goes down. The trick here, the big trick here, is to make sure that you've got, see how when I hover over, you'll notice there's a description in the top. See how it's got a dusting of mud. When you have only one layer of water in a well, the bottom layer will have a dusting of mud. And what that does, unfortunately, is it then creates the possibility of getting infections. Now, water can be tainted in all sorts of different ways. So you sort of almost have to think, okay, if it gets tainted by blood or something like that, or like particularly if it gets tainted by like vampire blood or werebeast blood or anything like that, that can really cause some other sort of unwanted side effects. And so you don't want to be having, like, if you do have tainted water, you almost, like, I haven't sort of thought of a way of getting rid of the water at this point in time, but you may need to get rid of the water at some point and then restart again. Now, I haven't put a system in here to stop the filling of this chamber. I should have actually put something else in here actually, because this is all coming. This is a massive. We've got a massive area through there. If that becomes tainted, yeah, we're going to be in trouble actually with that well. But anyway, that's but you want the two levels, because you'll see there the bottom layer will have a dusting of mud all the time, and then you go up one layer and it's just open space within water in there. So we've got clean water, and that's what you need from the well. So you don't want to be using the tainted water at all. All right, then up through here we go up, and that just goes up a couple of layers, and then it takes it into this little zone here, which we've walled off. This is our zone for the animals, and nothing too tricky here. I'm going to be killing off the rabbits. I haven't really been getting much from the rabbits. I sort of don't think I really want to bother keeping them. We also have animals like the shearing animals, like the rams. We did come with a stray water buffalo bull. I haven't slaughtered that one yet. We did have to slaughter a few animals over the time to get some tallow for future soap making, and also for food. We actually ran right out of food. I made some mistakes in the early part of the fortress with not having certain things happening, and this I've actually, in that episode, which I think was around episode 7 or so, I think it was to do with farms, is where I made my mistakes, and I didn't correct them during that particular episode. I have mentioned them again afterwards, but I have actually I've pinned a comment there by someone who actually commented on the episode to say what they do, and it was actually really good advice. It was actually beyond what I normally do, so it sort of went a step forward, and I really liked what was written in there. So go back to that episode if you're interested and have a read of that comment, because it was quite nice actually, just his approach. I'm running out of time already. I'm already at half an hour. God damn it! I'm still got a lot to go through. I've got a whole lot of new stuff to go through as well, because I've been building stuff while we've been away. This eventually will be for seeds, but I just haven't put the seeds here yet. We are starting to get a number of seeds, so I will actually do that in the next episode, because this is not going to be an actual episode. This is just going to be a full recap. This here I'm going to be using for farming to a degree as well. So I'm going to have my underground stuff farmed in through this side. Let's just go back down again. So through the hospital and then back down this side. This was just an access point. This is the main area back down. In through here, we actually then do have our farms. We're only using 3 farms. You don't need much, by the way, like for a fortress. And this is actually, this would keep us going for quite some period of time. The problems that we had with our food was not the amount of farming land. In fact, if I go and click on this one, you can see there, we've got plump helmets. Nothing's been planted yet, and we're in midwinter. This one here, nothing's in there, and nothing is, there's one lot of seeds in there. Actually, that's a bit of a worry, I've got to say. I won't look it up, but that is still a worry, because it means we're going to be running out of plump helmets again. That's actually quite a concern. They should be in the ground growing at this point in time, but they're not. We've got some farm areas in through this side. You can see how long it takes, because we did this very early on. There's hardly any growth happening with the actual floor fungus, and we would need that if we're going to store any of the grazing animals down here. And thankfully, we don't have to, because we've now got the upstairs, or we've got that layer outside where we can actually then go and do that. I don't like keeping animals up on the top layer, because they will get killed. Particularly if you're playing with the aggressive settings that I've actually got through here. Again, more battles occurred in through here with the humans. We've got our butchers and our tanners in through this side. This is our refuse pile. Now, the refuse pile is starting to fill up with all of these different skeletons from outside. I do need to get on top of this, because there's just too many. But again, I don't really have the people to use. This is actually down through here as an atom smasher. And so I'm going to be putting a lot of these skeletons on the floor here, and then up through here. This is where I'm going to open this one up for dumping, so we can just dump them into this area, and then that lever then brings this bridge down to then completely crush everything that's in there. So it's like one of the big machines, where they crush cars. That's sort of what happens in here. So anything that gets left in there, that lever is pulled, bang, down she comes, pull it again, up she goes, and it's all gone. So we got rid of the human bodies, for example, that way. So that was just a few episodes ago. Got a little piggery over here, but we don't actually have a boar, so we can't have pig babies. I've locked the door here with my turkey farm, and we do actually have a whole lot of eggs in here. We've got 13 turkey hen eggs, and we don't really know if these are fertile. If they break, they break. So hopefully they're fertile. We do have some turkey hens and a gobbler as well. So we've actually got, and you can see there. One of the great things about this is these are the animals that can sort of live underground. You don't need to have the fungus, and so they just eat all of the snails and grubs and things that you sort of find in these sort of regions. And similarly with these guys, they're fine in this sort of room. They don't starve. They just happily do what they do, including these. I could put these in that other room as well. The rabbit, not so much, or the buck rabbit. he has to have a grazing area. So he has to. I've left him inside because he's a pet. I could put him up outside, I guess, with the other rabbits. He does impregnate the other rabbits. That's what he's there for, I guess. I've got our kitchens back in through here. I won't go through in too much detail. We've got a farmer's workshop in through this side, and we do actually have, you can see there that we've been making thread, and we've got the whole lot of pigtail seeds in through this side. So it's been processing things as it goes. Your rock nuts. These are all the different sorts of things it's processing. So there's a lot of stuff in through there, and we probably find when we go to the still, there may be barley seeds. This is why I'm thinking I have to get like a barley and rye. Actually, these are, look at all the stuff that we've got with the in the still. There's some plump helmets that haven't been done yet, but that for me is a massive indicator. The next episode we are definitely going to be building that big farm up top, so we can grow barley and rye. That's going to at least get our drinks under control a little bit more effectively than what we've actually been doing. Back up through here is just a very storage with cats in here. The cats actually keep the vermin down. The vermin will eat your food, so you need a way of actually getting rid of the vermin, and so cats are the perfect predator for that. And so all you do there is you just create like a stockpile for the cats to then operate in, and so that's the cat stockpile essentially, pen or pasture, and the only animals in there are the two cats. So that's a good little tip actually to do that as well. Okay, so as we go deeper down, this is our main workshop layer, and they're just going to be sort of working away. Now I've designated these for dumping because they should be dumped in here. There is actually a dump zone, and this is a good thing to do as well. If you're trying to clean up your fortress, but you find that your stone stockpile just gets too full and you don't need a massive stone stockpile, just create a dump zone, because you can always just go and click on the dump zone and turn it on or off, like you can go red or green. When it's activated, this can be a great source. And if we have a look, instead of just having one rock in around here, when I hover over the corners, you can see it's starting to now build up because I'm dumping other stone in here. So granite, mica, etc. Now have actually released to this. We've got a bit of granite there. Yeah, so just got a little bit the start of it. I just handed the people in the fortress to go and clean it up. But all you do is you just go through and actually just designate things to be dumped, like all this stuff. Now I'm dumping this because I want to get rid of it from these stockpile areas, because these feed these different workshops, and so we haven't really been able to do anything in through there. Down through here, Crafts Dwarf's workshop, or Jeweler's workshop, sorry, with a fairly intricate system of bringing things across. I may tweak that as well. I'm not really happy with the amount of stuff that we end up getting from that one, as in I always get designations sort of coming up, or information coming up saying, oh, so and so has run out of gems, and I know I can do better than what's actually in there. So I will actually play with that at some point. This is our carpenters in through this side, and we do actually have then a wood stockpile in through here. Now I want the wood pretty much full as much as I possibly can. It's too dangerous to be going out into the cavern layers to really go down and chop wood unless you really are ready to do it. And so I don't want to be doing that again until I've got more people, and you can bring then a military out to sort of protect them while they're actually out there. And then this is my metals and gypsum. Oh, actually we've got gypsum. I didn't realise. Oh, okay. Wow. Okay, we've now got something else to do next turn as well. And that is to make plaster, because we need it in our hospital. If we're setting bones, we must have plaster. I didn't realise we had gypsum. Oh, that's a game changer. That is a game changer. Okay, we're going to make soap and gypsum next turn. Plus, we'll make the farm upstairs if I can do it. We'll see how we go. Anyway, that is awesome. So if you've got gypsum, you can then make plaster. So that's actually really something quite critical. So we'll do that in the next episode. We don't need it yet. We haven't had to set bones, but that's a matter of time. It will happen at some point. This is my furniture stockpile down through here. It was full, but I'm just keeping on sort of building things and getting things sort of set up, for the actual area. We just go further down. And then we hit our bedroom layer. Now we actually have our sheriff requires a lot more stuff than anyone else. So when we have a look at our nobles, we've actually got an expedition leader in through here who only requires an office basically, and just if he's got a great bedroom, but that's all he requires. Now what will end up happening fairly soon is we're going to get the mountain homes will then designate that we can become nobility, and at that point, someone within the fortress will then become the baron of Paint Daubs. And they will then have a whole that will then change the flavour of the game. And so what that will end up doing is it will then take the game into a mode where we then start to sort of have the wants and needs of a noble, and that can be something that we need to be mindful of. Now, if you end up with a really, really bad noble, and you can, that same Atom Smasher dump pile that I showed you before can be used to get rid of your nobles, because who knows where they end up. If they end up in there and someone pulls the lever, no, who's to know what's going on? So you can manipulate the nobility that you have. I mean, it's not something you do, but you can do it. We do actually have, and you'll notice that as this will very soon change when we do get enough people in to sort of take us to the next level where we get nobility. We're going to end up with a few other different sort of roles. You don't just stay with this sort of roles. They become superseded. So the expedition leader will become a mayor to start with, actually, the mayor, and then the mayor will, like, not the same person, but the mayor can take over from the expedition leader, and then a baron can then take over from the mayor, essentially. And at that point, you end up with a whole lot of other different sorts of roles that can then be filled in your fortress. So we've got ourselves a militia commander as well. It doesn't require anything. The sheriff does require a modest study, a modest quarters, and a modest dining room. So that's what it needs. We've got a modest study, fine quarters, and we do actually have a modest dining room as well. So we've got green ticks against all of those. They also do often require, like this one requires one chest, one cabinet, one weapon rack, and one armor stand. And so as long as they've got those, happy days, they're actually okay. And down through here, we've also got like a bookkeeper, the broker as well, for dealing with the traders when they come. The chief medical dwarf in here, just in charge of the hospital. The manager is I often just leave that as the expedition leader, because they often have the skill set for that one. And so what they do is they're the ones, I think they do require the office. I can't remember if that's the one that actually requires it or the actual expedition leader. I think it may just be the manager, actually. And so it's just the same person filling both roles in this instance. In that case, you basically just need to have an office for the manager. And so the manager allows you to do your work orders. The broker or the bookkeeper allows you to then keep accurate stocks of everything. So, for example, we can go into stocks and go across, and we're thinking, okay, how much plump helmet spawn do we have? Because we were looking at that before. And so you can see there I've got only one that's been planted. That's pretty bad. Okay, so how many plump helmets have we got that we haven't used yet? And I'll just go back. Plump helmets. And we've got plants. We've got 19 of them. So we can process those to get seed, but we're not going to get plump helmets through the winter now because we didn't actually make use of these. So you can very quickly, with your broker, find the issues in your fortress, so just by going to that stocks area. That's what they control. Okay, so anyway, this is going to be everything for the actual fortress itself. Now we're going to find that they're starting to now throw away, as they get new clothing, they're going to be throwing away the old clothing, and it'll be designated with an X, meaning that they're not really happy to deal with it. Wow, that's expensive. That's expensive. We can sell this, you see. This is when it gets to 2Xs or 3Xs, it really becomes rubbish. And so in this instance, we can just try to put that into like a bin to sell to different traders. They will actually buy our old clothes, and then we can sort of just offload it that way, or we can atom smash it if it's just not valuable. So these will often have Xs in through there. Some of these are actually worth quite a bit. All right. Well, I think we'll have to try to designate those. There was an amulet there as well. Like there's they've dropped an amulet there, well-crafted nice amulet. So this is just their messy rooms, which is what dwarves do. They tend to have messy rooms, but you can help them clean it up. And this is just the run-of-the-mill. I haven't smoothed anything in the fortress. I just don't have the people to do it, unfortunately. Again, there was a fight here with one of the humans that went a bit crazy. That's why we ended up getting the sheriff, but we didn't need to use the sheriff. We just made a very hasty military, which is down here, by the way. So if we just go back across, these ended up just randomly being called the Passionate Rocks. We can change the name if we wanted to. And we do actually have them fully decked out, but not activated. So if we have to scramble, I can get more than half my military, like half the people in the fortress, can then be going bang, you're in, let's go and deal with whatever the threat happens to be. So it's not great. It can deal with little things, but nothing big, because they don't really have good armor or anything like this. Anyway, I'll be doing much more about squads when we've got the population to then go and deal with it. So at the moment, our population is very, very poor. All right, let's continue on further down. So this is our bedroom layout. This will all be smoothed at some point. A couple of layers down. I like to keep a layer that I don't use between major areas like bedroom, then go down into sort of like the main social area. Now the social area, I'm now concerned because we've got so many guests that try to come into here. I'm thinking of actually moving that up to the top of the fortress, just to keep them away from the actual dwarves, to a degree anyway. So I'll probably create two, one for the public away from everyone, and one from our dwarves at the bottom of the fortress. So we'll have an inn just for our guys, and then an inn at the top for the guests. I think that's how we'll sort of then work it. I'll do that. I'll deal with that again at some other point. This is our area in through here. This one is walled in. If we have someone that starts to go crazy, we can then just lock these doors, and that way they can't go in and destroy what we've got. Like, you can imagine how disastrous it would be if someone crazy came in and started to flick all the switches and then let go of those two demons down below. And that would then be a real scramble for us to then sort of get on top of that. So this just sort of, when that sort of thing starts to happen, bang, we close it, job done, and this room then is relatively secure. I've got a temple that I've built down in through here, but no one's using it yet. I thought more would, but this is very, very low level. This is just a shrine. When I go and click on this one, you can say, if we go into this side, it's only a shrine at this point in time. It needs to get up to 2,000 value. It's only 120 value at this point in time as well. So still got a bit to do there to bring that one up to speed. But we'll get there eventually. If we smooth it, engrave it, we'll probably get to the next level, which is a temple. And so that's something we will do. And this is for all the different deities. I will go and create other temples around the place as well. So we'll sort of figure out how we can then do that one. They just need a dance area of 5x5, so they don't need to be as big as this one. I thought I'd just make a catch-all for all of those people. So that's our meeting room. This is our burial chambers. I've had to dig a lot, as you can see, because ultimately I thought I could designate these to only accept the dwarves from the fortress, but what they do is they consider guests that die on behalf of the fortress or outside, and there's been a lot of people died outside. They also then get allocated a coffin. So there's a lot of these coffins, even if the body doesn't exist, they'll still be allocated a coffin. So we've got a big job ahead of us with just honouring the dead that have fallen outside. There's so many people that have died, dead or missing, back in through here. As we sort of come back down, there's those corpses we don't honour because they're basically the undead. We've got one of the demons, and the mistake also then died as well. So these are all through here. We don't honour these, but then we will actually have a heap. You can see I'm only a small portion of the way down, and then we've got human bards. These all have to be honoured. All of these people have to be honoured, and so ultimately, not so much. Actually, these goblins, these are poets, and dancers. These were not part of any invasion, and so they all need to be honoured, except for like the trolls and troglodytes and things. So there's an enormous number of, as we go through this list, essentially that's coffins for every single one of those people, which is not fun. We've got a lot of work to do. So I have actually dug this out. And just again, if I need to then go and sort of think, okay, look, I really do need to use this layer above, we can then do the layer above and sort of get that one done that way. So that may be something that we actually go and do as well. Right, okay, so that's now that layer. We then go down deeper. This then takes us down to the bottom of where we got to with the fortress, so that's as far as we dug. We did dig down deeper, but when we got to here, or a little bit further, we then found the cavern layer. So what I thought I'd do is actually go across and dig through this channel here. This is like a core. It just happened to be a nice size for what we need to go down through this middle cavern layer. There's 3 levels of caverns in the fortresses, so just be aware of that. And they all can be as dangerous as each other, to be honest. Maybe the third layer is usually a bit more dangerous than the others, but they can have different things come at you. One thing that can be good, sometimes there's like a between the cavern layers, there'll actually be a secret passage where people can, or where units can actually go up and down between them, but you've got to discover those. So sometimes you'll get a message saying that there's you've found a deep deep cavern or a deep, I think it says deep cavern, and that way that will be then a way through to the next layer down, and quite often you won't be able to see all the way through. Anyway, I started to dig through here. You haven't seen this yet. So if you're still here, we're 50 minutes in and we're still just doing the summary. But as we come back through, this is a tour. This is a guided tour of the fortress with some tips thrown in. Now, of course, the thing I did, I should point this one out. Again, always think, what's the vulnerability? What have I done that can cause a problem? And what can make use of that vulnerability? In through here, not only did I put an upstair there, so I changed the relationship of the stair. I channeled this one out and then built an upstair from it. But before I did that as well, because I'm not 100% sure about whether an upstair will cut it, because I had an up-down stair, like you can see through here, we've got up-down stairs. Now, stairs are really complex to actually understand. You've got two layers. You've got like a floor layer down below, and you've got a middle layer, which is where you operate. So when you mine through the middle layer, leaving a floor layer on the same region that you're on. On the same Z level, you've got essentially those two layers. When a stair goes through, when you dig an up-down stair, you essentially are digging down through the second layer. So you're digging through down, and then you're digging another stair through the middle layer of the next portion. If you don't block off that floor layer above here, anything can just wander through that one. It'll fly through in this instance because we're up a bit higher. But any flying creature would be able to get in there, and you do need to block them off because if you end up with a forgotten beast that can fly, suddenly you've got a major problem in your fortress. And so in this instance, what I've done here is I've actually put a floor down first, and then I've manufactured an upstair. And so I've got rid of the middle layer in the middle there, so I can actually put a floor down first, then the upstair, and then that's secure. So I know, even though I've got up down stairs there that then fed into this area, it's no longer insecure. So that's another point that was secured. Then across here, another thing I've done is I've gone across. I will build a bridge here at some point, like a drawbridge, and have it so that it can be crashed down or up, because this potentially now opens up a whole other realm of issues. And if I actually end up with a drawbridge here, I can close it down and close any potential problem down as well with that. But again, I'll do that later on. But this is a nice big flat area. You can build a drawbridge over a downstair, but you can't do it in anything else that exists in that. So anything like the downstair only chops through the middle, the floor layer. And so a drawbridge comes down across the floor layer, meaning that if you've got a hole through the floor layer, not a problem. It can sort of operate that one. But anything that exists on top of the floor layer, it will smash it, or it basically you won't be able to build it. So that's why you can't put a zone inside an area where a bridge will crash down. You can't actually put a zone in there because you're building on something that they're both sharing the same area. So that's sort of how that one does work. We then go down through this little area, and I thought I'm just going to go down and channel down. Now, when I get past an area that I'm not sure about, and I was trying to find the next cavern layer, so and also I was trying to also find magma, so we can start to sort of then have a bit more of a look at magma, because magma is really cool. I just chose this corner here, and so I didn't do all the others initially. I just channeled one down just to see if I could actually find anything, and so I came down. I then actually hit this area through here. So same deal again. I basically actually no, sorry, I got to that layer. This is a freaky sort of thing. I didn't actually, this is my bottom layer. You can see that right underneath this is the third and final cavern in the actual fortress itself. So the third and final cavern is basically here, or the third major cavern. And so, and I just happened to accidentally stop there. And then I thought, okay, look, it must be around here somewhere. I'm going to dig across and then find another way down. Actually, no, how did I find this? Yeah, because I only got to this far now. So you can see I've still got these one designated for mining. I'm not sure how I found that, to be honest. I think what I did was just go across to do another layer where I can then put another bridge down. So I was just getting this one ready to sort of be able to close this area off as well. So it's the same sort of deal. So it was just freaky luck that I happened to do it the one layer above the final layer. And then you can see all I'm doing is digging this one corner because I'm exploring. And so I go down, and then at this point I then access the cavern layer, and I can now sort of see the cavern layers and what's actually in through here. And this will often have a lot of riches. And so when you actually get to this layer, just be aware that, you know, there's a lot of potential for you to make a lot from this one. It's not that far down for us as well. Like, it's actually fairly accessible for our miners to come down and actually do things in through here. Now, with this one here, I then went across and I exposed the diagonal in this area through here. And you can't build, like, so I had actually a wall that went into through this way and this way. So that was exposed to the diagonal. I can't go and actually put that in there across the diagonal. They would have to then walk outside and then do it, which is not good. I don't want to have a dwarf sitting outside here after he finishes blocking off the problem. And so what I needed to do in that case was to channel out this one and then put them both in, or put this one in first and then put this one back in, where they can actually access it from these two different areas. And that was quite important, just for our own security. But now we can see what's going on, and you can see I haven't really done much else in through here. There's a few little things that actually do show up though. So let's just see how far down I go. I was looking for the magma, and how far down do I go? I'm going deeper down. I'm negative 40 at this point in time. So digging all the way down. There's the miner that was actually doing all this work, and then I thought I'm going to stop around here. There's all sorts of different Morian clusters and all sorts of different bits and pieces down this way. So we're way down at the bottom here. Didn't find much down through that side, but with what we did find up on this other cavern layer, there's actually some really, really good clues, and I'll show you what I mean. So this will be the last little bit that we do. Wow, it's nearly going to be an hour just in summary. So when we come up to this layer, so this was the layer that we exposed in through here, for example. If I then go back and now go and click on my mining area, we're going to see anything where there's water. Like, we can see that there's water down underneath here, for example. And so that's going to have water sort of trundling in around this side. We'll also notice that there was a message that came up. I've left them so you can see them. So when we opened the cavern, it said you've discovered an expansive cavern deep underground. If I click on that one, we can just have a bit of a look at it. So these come up at the same time. And so it's then showing where the cavern actually was. And then you've discovered an unusual volcanic wall studded with gems. That's the clue that we've actually hit lava. We just don't know it yet. And so when we have a bit of a look at this one across here, we can then have a look to see. And that wasn't that far over. That's just from there to there. And suddenly we've actually hit a volcanic wall. And so if we have a look for obsidian is the clue that there's heat on the other side. But if we also just do this, see how when I click on my mining area, I've got water designation in through this side for some reason, and I don't know why. So that's interesting. Like, there's some water that's sort of somehow enacting with this one. But as I go up and down, I can then see heat. And so it looks like we've actually got like a bathylisk, I think they're called, a bathylisk, where it's basically a bubble of magma that comes up underground. And so it's still got ground above it. It's like a volcano that hasn't actually popped through the surface. And so that's what we're dealing with here. When we have a look, we can sort of see this is a warm, rough-hewn, faint yellow diamond cluster in through there. We've got granite in through this side, which is an igneous rock. There's obsidian in through there as well. And so we've got like an unusual sort of collection of heat and water somehow. And I don't know where the water is coming from, but that's interesting as well. There is water down here. But so there's dampness over on these rock walls, in the mica walls. But then over this side, we've got obsidian walls. And so this is really, really quite an interesting little find, just geologically, in terms of, not in real life, but in terms of Dwarf Fortress. It's actually a really, really cool find that we've actually found into here. Again, a warm, rough-hewn obsidian wall. And so when you can find so many little clues when you're looking around. So now, how high up does this one go? It's a reasonable size, like we can sort of see through there. If we sort of look across, and then we come up a layer, we can sort of see that it's sort of, like it's, if we sort of have a bit of a look, it's not going to go all the way out to here. But what we could do is actually then go and try to find and think, okay, well, this is probably the area that we'll then can sort of then go and hunt for this magma. And once we actually break into the magma, we'll then sort of get an idea of what the shape is, what the core is like. That will then expand into other magma seas down below. And I think we've actually just happened to sort of tunnel right through the middle of all the magma seas that were down below. And so this will then expose a lot of those for us. But it will also give us the another way of then sort of building things using magma, which is what I really want. And so I'm going to go back up to one of the top layers, find my little spot up through, where are we? Where's our areas? So you can see that below this area, somewhere in here, I would then just have to go down. Actually, where's my, is that my way down? Yeah, this is the way down. And then we go across to this area, and then we just go across from there. So from here, I could almost just go straight across. In fact, if I have a look over through this side, you know, we're actually, this may be, yeah, with this one selected, we're not seeing any heat over through here. We've still got granite, still got mica. So again, we've got igneous rock, but then we're going to find that pretty much, and that's the layer down below. And so I could just use that that little channel that we've established here to then just dig across and see if we actually find it. You know, like see if we actually, because if there's magma below, it should actually be heating up all of the stone around it, which means that it should then stop us from actually getting across there, and then we can start to deal with it. So I'll do that as well in the coming episodes. I'm in no rush to hit the magma, but I did want to sort of have it ready for when we start to do our smelting, so we can end up with a massive smelting operation. Now, as we sort of saw there, if we go from this layer up, like we're at -8 through here, so it's just fairly high up. Can then just go up until we get to the next cavern layer. Oh, that's what I was talking about before. Back over here, we actually this is the channel that runs between the two different areas. Now we're going to lose sight of how to get there, but that goes from this zone up through, and we're missing a few little bits and pieces there, but that goes between the different channels, and this then brings it up into the middle layer eventually. So that then comes up this way. This is how the forgotten beasts and things will then move their way between different cavern layers. So we will. Yeah, so we did find that one is there as well. I must have had a message. I can't remember it though. Anyway, that's the grand plan. And the grand tour, and only took an hour to go through it. I really thought we'd do that in 10 minutes, and then I'd be sort of into doing the other bits and pieces. Hope you didn't mind me sort of doing this bit of a recap. But I think it's useful to every so often just get a perspective of actually what you've done, because the plan, you don't know what the plan will be until you actually start to find what's available to you. So even with all of that, those channels that we've been able to do down below, because we've got so many layers before we actually hit the aquifer layer, we can do so much in those layers with traps and things that we wouldn't have been able to do if the aquifer was just, you know, really, really close to the surface. So it's all just opportunities of wherever you sort of happen to sort of start. Anyway, I hope you didn't mind me just going through in this particular episode. Please consider liking and subscribing if you do like the content, and thank you for watching for such a long time. This was a nothing episode, and I apologise if you were wanting to see gameplay and all you got was some bloke waffling on about what he's built in Dwarf Fortress. Anyway, I think it's useful for some of you, I guess. So I won't re-record this one. I'll just keep it the way it is. We didn't even take this off pause the whole time. We didn't even do a designation. Anyway, we've got some plans we saw some potential problems. We saw some things we want to do. We'll do that in the coming episodes. Thanks for watching. There was one little thing I forgot to mention, and I think it's worth actually mentioning. The third cavern layer will have some unique things in it, so that you may want to get access to depending on what your plans are for your own fortress. And probably the most prevalent one of those, actually, that's obsidian there as well. Oh no, that's where we were looking. I was just thinking, oh wow, there's more heat down there. That's exactly where we were looking. Sorry about that. Getting excited, getting carried away with different things. There's one plant that you may want to get access to, and if you just hover over, there's got goblin cap. Back over through here, we've got black cap. I forget what color. This one here. This one here is nether cap, and nether cap is, you can build anything you wanted to build out of wood and have it magma safe. This is the only wood in the whole game that you can build stuff with, and so it's got like a trunk that sort of runs in through here. If you can get access to some of that for building magma safe wooden objects, then you can actually go and do it. Now, I was thinking in my live stream of actually doing a nether cap water wheel, and then use the magma to then drive the water wheel, and so it would actually be like because you can only build them out of wood, and so I was going to use nether cap to do that one, but we've since sort of found out that magma can't drive wheels, and so in that case it has to be water. So that plan sort of went into nothing. But anyway, that's what Dwarf Fortress is all about. These little plans that you actually then end up having. But that's nether cap is something where it sort of keeps a just on frozen temperature all the way through for when you're building stuff with it. So that's why it's magma safe. But it can still, if a log gets thrown into magma, it's going to burn up. You can still burn it in a furnace, so it's not impervious to fire. It's just you can build magma safe things out of it. So beds, for whatever reason, if you needed a magma safe bed, you could do it with a nether cap bed. Because beds can only be made out of wood. I'm just trying to think of the other things that can be made out of wood. But that's that would be sort of where you would make use of that particular sort of this very icy looking thing through here. This is the same sort of stuff. Anyway, that's nether cap. It's a good sort of wood if you do need to sort of have different things in through there. So anyway, I thought I'd just show that one, but you do actually have some other sorts of weird and wonderful things. Bloodthorn trunks. You're still going to have your staples like your dimple cups, your sweet pods, your plump helmets. There's a lot of stuff in through here. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.